Someone knows the truth. Someone has been hiding it for weeks. And one decision could finally bring the entire Theo Silverton murder mystery crashing down. But if that truth comes out, it won't just save one life. It could destroy several others. Because while Summer Spellman sits trapped in a nightmare she insists she didn't create, a guilt-ridden Tyrone Dobbs is carrying a secret so explosive that it's threatening to consume him from the inside out. Now, the moment he's been dreading may have finally arrived. For weeks, viewers have watched the investigation spiral into chaos. Suspects have emerged. Alibis have been questioned. Friendships have fractured. And through it all, one devastating reality has remained unchanged. Summer has continued paying the price. He's suspected. And left fighting to prove her innocence. But what if the answer has been hiding in plain sight all along? What if the person holding the key to everything wasn't a detective, wasn't a witness, but someone paralyzed by fear? Because that's exactly where Tyrone finds himself. Caught between guilt and self-preservation. Caught between doing what's right and protecting his own future. And the pressure is becoming unbearable. But that's only the beginning. Because the deeper Tyrone's secret is explored, the more shocking it becomes. The official story suggested he spent the entire evening at a wedding. They accounted for. Nowhere near the events that would later shake Weatherfield. It seemed straightforward. Simple. Believable. But the truth was never that simple. Flashback changed everything. A moment viewers couldn't ignore. A moment that completely shattered Tyrone's version of events. Because after leaving the wedding, Tyrone found himself somewhere he never admitted being. Near the garage. Near the corner shop. Near Theo. And most importantly, near Summer. Suddenly the entire investigation looked different. Suddenly Tyrone wasn't just another resident watching events unfold. He was a witness. A crucial witness. Perhaps the witness who could change everything. Yet he stayed silent. Why? That question has haunted viewers ever since. And the answer is darker than many imagined. Because moments before spotting Summer, Tyrone witnessed something terrifying. Something dangerous. Something that could have destroyed an entire family. Carl Webster. Secretly tampering with Kevin Webster's car. Cutting the brakes. Potentially setting in motion a disaster that could have ended in tragedy. It's the kind of discovery that changes everything. The kind of discovery nobody wants to be involved in. And then disaster struck. Tyrone attempted to film what he was seeing. To capture evidence. To protect himself. To document the truth. But in a split second everything went wrong. He lost his balance. Reached out to steady himself. Grabbed the wrong thing. And sent a car crashing down onto Carl. A horrifying accident. One terrifying moment. A split-second mistake that would haunt him for weeks. And that's where the real nightmare began. Because from that moment onward, Tyrone wasn't just protecting a secret. He was protecting multiple secrets. His involvement. Carl's actions. The footage on his phone. Everything became interconnected. Everything became dangerous. And every day that passed made telling the truth even harder. Meanwhile, Summer's situation continued to deteriorate. The emotional cost became devastating. As the investigation tightened around her, she found herself trapped inside a system that increasingly seemed determined to view her as guilty. Fear became panic. Panic became desperation. And desperation eventually pushed her to a heartbreaking breaking point. When news emerged that Summer had deliberately made herself ill to escape prison, the emotional impact hit Tyrone harder than ever. Because suddenly this wasn't just about protecting himself. This wasn't just about avoiding consequences. An innocent young woman was suffering. And he knew he held information that could help. Imagine living with that burden. Imagine waking up every morning knowing somebody else's future could be destroyed because of your silence. That guilt began eating away at him. Day after day. Hour after hour. The pressure becoming impossible to escape. But one detail changes everything. Carl starts remembering. Not everything. Not all at once. But enough. Enough to make Tyrone panic. Enough to make viewers realize that the truth was getting closer. The memories begin returning. Fragments at first. Confusing flashes. Scattered images. Then something more. Carl remembers being at the garage. Carl remembers the accident. Carl remembers far more than Tyrone ever hoped he would. And suddenly the carefully constructed wall of silence begins to crack. As if Carl remembers. How long before everyone else discovers the truth? But then things become even more complicated. Instead of exposing Tyrone immediately, Carl confronts him. And the tension between them becomes unbearable. For weeks Tyrone has feared this exact moment. The moment when the victim stands directly in front of him. The moment when excuses no longer work. The moment when secrets can no longer stay hidden. What happens next leaves everyone stunned. Tyrone finally tells him the truth. Everything. The accident. The guilt. The silence. The reason he stayed quiet. For Tyrone, it's a confession years in the making compressed into a single emotional conversation. For Carl, it's a shocking revelation. And his reaction is exactly what you'd expect. Fury. Betrayal. Because regardless of whether it was accidental, the consequences changed everything. Yet even in that explosive confrontation, another dangerous truth emerges. Carl isn't innocent either. Not even close. Because if Tyrone's phone reaches police hands, investigators won't just see evidence of the accident. They could also see Carl allegedly tampering with Kevin's brakes. And suddenly the balance of power shifts. The victim becomes vulnerable. The accuser becomes dangerous. And both men realize they're standing on the edge of a cliff. One wrong move. One wrong decision. And both of their lives could implode. But that's not the strongest twist. Not even close. Because the emotional heart of this story isn't Carl. It's Summer. The innocent person caught in the middle. The person paying the highest price. The person who doesn't even realize how close she may be to freedom. As Tyrone's guilt reaches breaking point, one person finally forces him to confront reality. The person who sees the pain. The fear. The emotional collapse. The person who refuses to let him keep hiding. When Tyrone finally tells her everything, the response is immediate. Direct. Uncompromising. Hand the phone to the police. Tell the truth. End this nightmare. It's simple advice. But carrying it out could destroy everything. Because once police see that footage, there is no going back. No more secrets. No more hiding. No more controlling the narrative. The truth belongs to everyone. And that terrifies Tyrone. Because what if the consequences are worse than he imagines? What if helping Summer means sacrificing himself? What if telling the truth unleashes even more chaos? Yet despite his fear, a decision is finally made. Tyrone heads towards the police station. The phone in his possession. The evidence still intact. The truth finally within reach. And that's when another clue emerges. One clue that may completely change the direction of the murder investigation. On the way to the station, Tyrone and Fizz cross paths with Gary Windass. At first it seems like an ordinary encounter. Nothing unusual. Nothing significant. Until they explain what's happening. Until Gary realizes that evidence is about to reach police hands. Until the possibility of fresh scrutiny suddenly becomes very real. And then viewers notice something impossible to ignore. Gary's reaction. Uneasy. Nervous. Almost sheepish. Not the reaction of someone completely comfortable. Not the reaction of someone completely unconcerned. And that's where the mystery deepens once again. Because while Tyrone's secret may finally be coming into the light, could Gary be hiding one of his own? The investigation into Theo's death has already produced countless twists. Countless suspects. Countless red herrings. But what if the biggest revelation is still waiting? What if Tyrone's confession doesn't solve the mystery? What if it simply points investigators towards an even darker truth? Because as the phone moves closer to police hands, as evidence edges closer to exposure, and as secrets begin collapsing one after another, one terrifying possibility refuses to disappear. The wrong person may have been under suspicion all along. And if that's true, the real danger could still be walking free. For now, Tyrone has finally chosen a side. Truth over silence. Justice over fear. But if one thing is becoming painfully clear, his confession may not be the end of this mystery. It may be the beginning. Because when police finally unlock everything hidden inside that phone, Weatherfield could be hit by the most explosive revelation yet. And if Gary Windass has a secret he desperately wants buried, he may be running out of time. Fast.